On the afternoon of May 31st, 1889, the city of Johnstown, Pennsylvania, was already living with the sound of rain. The Little Conemaugh Valley had seen floods before. People knew the routines: watch the river, move goods from low floors, listen for warnings, hope the water would fall. But upstream, 14 miles away, an old earthen dam held back a private lake at the South Fork Fishing and Hunting Club. By late afternoon, that dam was no longer simply a piece of scenery for a mountain resort. It had become the weak wall between a working industrial city and one of the deadliest disasters in American history. The Johnstown flood was not a freak wave appearing from nowhere. It was the result of geography, weather, engineering choices, class power, and warning systems that failed under pressure. Johnstown sat in a narrow valley where water, railroads, mills, houses, and streets were crowded together by the surrounding hills. Above it, the South Fork Dam had originally been built as part of Pennsylvania's canal system, then abandoned, altered, and reused to create Lake Conemaugh for wealthy club members. The lake looked peaceful. The risk was stored in its height, volume, and neglected structure. Heavy rain fell across western Pennsylvania on May 30th and 31st. Creeks rose quickly. The South Fork Dam, already weakened by age and past modifications, began to overtop. Men at the dam tried desperate repairs, opening channels, piling material, and sending warnings down the valley. But a warning is only as strong as the system that carries it and the trust people place in it. Johnstown had heard flood alarms before. False alarms, poor communications, and the sheer speed of the coming water meant that many people did not know, could not believe, or could not escape what was about to happen. At about 3:10 in the afternoon, the South Fork Dam failed. Lake Conemaugh burst through the breach and became a moving wall of water, mud, trees, buildings, railroad cars, animals, and industrial debris. The wave traveled down the valley, striking communities before Johnstown itself: South Fork, Mineral Point, East Conemaugh, and Woodville. Each place became part of the flood's force, because every bridge, house, lumber pile, and railcar it tore away added weight to the next impact. Survivors later described a roar like thunder and a dark mass filled with wreckage. When the flood reached Johnstown, it did not behave like ordinary high water. It smashed into a city built around mills, tracks, homes, churches, and shops. Buildings lifted from foundations. Streets became channels of debris. People climbed roofs, trees, telegraph poles, and fragments of floating houses. Some survived because wreckage trapped them above the current. Others died inside homes that had been familiar minutes before. The exact experiences were different from block to block, but the pattern was the same. A modern industrial city was hit by the collapse of an upstream engineering system it did not control. The stone bridge became one of the disaster's most terrible scenes. Debris jammed against its arches, creating a massive pile of timber, wreckage, and bodies. Then the pile burned. For people trapped in the debris, water and fire became the same catastrophe. This is one reason the Johnstown flood remains so hard to reduce to a number. The commonly cited death toll is more than 2,200 people, but behind that figure were families erased, bodies never identified, immigrant workers and children often recorded with less care than prominent residents, and neighborhoods whose social map changed overnight. Relief came quickly, but not evenly or simply. Clara Barton and the American Red Cross, still a young organization in the United States, helped coordinate aid. Railroads, newspapers, churches, civic groups, and donors across the country sent money and supplies. Johnstown became a national story because late 19th century media could turn catastrophe into a shared event. Readers followed survivor accounts, damage estimates, accusations, and moral arguments about responsibility. The disaster was local in its valley geography, but national in the way Americans debated it. The hardest question was accountability. Many people blamed the South Fork Fishing and Hunting Club, whose members included some of the most powerful industrial and financial figures in the region. Critics pointed to alterations and maintenance failures at the dam, including lowered sections and inadequate spillway capacity. Lawsuits followed, but the club and its members were not held legally liable in the way many survivors expected. The legal doctrine of the time made it difficult to prove responsibility under the standards courts applied. That gap between moral blame and legal outcome became part of the flood's legacy. The disaster also exposed an uncomfortable truth about progress. Johnstown was a place of steel, rail, telegraph lines, industrial labor, and engineering ambition. Yet the same society that celebrated modern infrastructure could tolerate dangerous private control over a reservoir above a crowded valley. The flood was not simply nature punishing a town. Rain supplied the pressure, but human decisions shaped the hazard. How a dam was maintained, how warnings were treated where workers lived, who had power to alter landscapes, and who bore the cost when risk moved downhill. Today, the Johnstown flood is remembered through memorial landscapes, photographs, survivor accounts, engineering studies, and the continuing question of preventable disaster. It asks a question that reaches beyond 1889. When a structure fails, who is responsible for the lives arranged below it? The answer is rarely just one storm or one broken wall. It is the chain of choices that makes danger invisible until the moment it arrives. On May 31st, 1889, that chain broke above Johnstown, and the valley became a warning written in water, wreckage, and memory.